Yo, my name's JoJo, I'm the hip-hop-opotamus, my lyrics are bottomless. Good for you if you got the reference. But yeah, hello everybody. Welcome back to our weekly Hypnosis Mic Division Rap Battle Rhyme Anima discussion video. Today we're talking all about episode 2, Speak of the Devil and He Will Appear. Before we do that though, holy cow, I need to let you guys know to hit that sub button, but most importantly, ring that bell. I have been getting told by tons of people that these videos are not even hitting their sub feed. So yeah, definitely hit the bell. YouTube's made some changes where you have to hit the bell. So hit the bell, hit sub, and then ring that bell, put notifications to all if you want to get these videos directly to you. That seems to be the way of it. Unfortunately, we just got to deal with the hand that YouTube has dealt us. So yeah, make sure that you're subbed and you have the bell rung and all that fun stuff. Ring the bell, let AniTube know you're here, and without further ado, we're gonna jump into this week's episode, and it's another episode of the Buster Bros Show. I didn't expect that. I was like, the Buster Bros again? They were mostly the focus last week. I know that we did get some time with the other crews as well, but I'm kind of surprised. I didn't expect to see them again so soon. I thought what we'd be doing is that we'd be like sort of trading off like week to week, different group, different group, different group. And like I said, yes, last week did have like all the crews together, but it was still mostly like Buster Bros focused as far as I was concerned. They even got the ED. So I had assumed like, okay, so the next week it's going to be like, for example, like Fling Posse. And then Fling Posse will have their own version of the ED. And that's what I had assumed was going to happen. That's not quite the case. It's just, once again, a Buster Bros episode. I do think that next week is either going to be like another Buster Bros episode and then we'll trade off. Like maybe they're giving each group like 3 episodes and then they're gonna clash at the end. Or maybe next week is actually gonna pass off to like another one of the crews and then we'll get like an individual episode for each one, build up to the big clash, and then actually show the big clash. A part of me is wondering if they're actually gonna save that for a possible season 2. It really depends how season 1 does. Admittedly, I did see, and even friends of mine say that they weren't interested in hypmic. Even friends of mine that I thought might like it, and friends of mine that I knew wouldn't like it, all said like, nah, I'm not interested. And I was like, man, y'all are missing out. It's the greatness. Don't get me wrong. I recognize that it's cheese, and I've even referred to it as my trash, but that's because I love it dearly. And I know that there's some elements to it that are goofy. Like the hypmic, when you think about it, in like the hypmic as an instrument, as a weapon, is goofy, right? But in the same way, like using a children's card game to hit people, you know what I mean? Like that's also goofy. Sending people to a shadow realm with a children's card game is goofy, but we all still go gaga for it, in the same way that I still go insane over watching dudes use actual rhyme to whoop somebody's ass. Like, it's just fun. I did maybe manage to convince a certain buddy of mine to maybe check it out. We'll see what he thinks. But yeah, I hope more people check out the show. Because yeah, it totally deserves it, and especially I want everybody to get an episode with their crew. I'm sure Buster Bros fans are hella happy though. Like I saw some Buster Bros fans in the comments last week. And that's another thing. My God, y'all are nice. Like this was like one of the friendliest fandoms I had encountered, at least the ones that watched last week's video. And you saw like the individual crews being like, hey, where's the Buster Bros fans? Hey, where's the Fling Posse fans? It's like, oh, this is nice. I like this. Like Madonero and Mad Trigger Crew and stuff like that. Like, where's so-and-so fans? It's like, oh, this is nice. I like this. But yes, I imagine Buster Bros fans are hella happy knowing that they once again got to see their boys shine. And shine they did. I will say, like, Jiro and Saburo definitely are still at each other's throats, but, you know, like, that's what brothers do. But they both still super idolize Ichiro. And Ichi, as they gave him that nickname, I'ma use it. Y'all know I love nicknames around here. Ichi steals this episode, like, completely runs away with it. He is, without a doubt, the star, even though he's not even in it as much as Jiro and Saburo. Jiro's still my favorite of the crew, but Ichi making strong plays for that. In fact, Ichi might have like nudged Jiro out of that favorite spot by like 0.001% this week. He's just a badass. Like Ichi is just an absolute badass, and we see him like as Saburo and Jiro get cornered by the dudes from last week. Unfortunately, Jiro gave the wrong directions to Ichi, so he has to like run through the city to get to them before before they get jumped by the other guys. And by jumped, I mean, you know, get rapped at. But still, it would hurt. And we'll talk a little bit more about how the hypmic works later in this video. But yeah, like we see we see Ichi running through the streets and everyone being like, oh shit, it's Ichiro from like the Buster Bros, oh man, and like the town is going crazy for him, like Ikebukuro is like all excited to see him. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, is it cheesy? Yeah, but it's kind of like they're superheroes, right? They're like the local protectors. And you see like Ichi like running through the streets, and then he just like jumps over a wall, or like it looked like he jumped through the screen, but I assume it's that he jumped over like the garden wall, and landed like right in front of the bad guys, and they just see him and bolt, and he's like, man, I didn't even get to throw down with these guys. They just ran away. At that moment I had assumed that the only people we will see use the hypmics were the main hypmic crew. I was wrong. We end up seeing another character use a hypmic later who is, to my knowledge, not part of a rap crew. But yeah, Ichi's just like so beloved by his town and his people. Like, it's just nice to see. And that actually does come into play a little bit later when Ichiro ends up at this cafe. He's given like a mountain of goodies, and he's like, I can't eat all this. And just when he's about to leave, as he calls himself, the Ikebukuro bank robber arrives, and I guess he only robs banks specifically in Ikebukuro. That's a weird decision. You may want to branch out a bit, or maybe he was just saying like, no, I'm the guy who robbed the bank at Ikebukuro today. But I like the idea that he specifically only robs banks at Ikebukuro and gave himself that title. Why? Because it's silly, and I like silly things. But yeah, Ichi sees this dude like come in, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit funny at first, right? Because he walks in and he's like, nobody move, right? And he's got a mic to this girl's face, and he has like mics taped to his chest, like all pointed up, and I'm like, what? Like, I was like, it took me a second. I was like, why is he doing that? And I was like, oh yeah, there's no weapons. I forgot. That looked really funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that looked really, really funny. And that's what I like about the show, is that it knows that looked funny, and like they purposely draw attention to how funny that looked. But they still keep the tension, right? Because Ichi knows what those mics can do. So even though to us, who are not within that world, we think it's funny, and the show lets you have a moment to be like, you know, like it lets you have like the chuckle moment. Ichi recognizes the danger immediately, but he's not scared. Ichi seems more like annoyed, which again, I love this dude. I'm sorry, Jiro. It might be the Ichi show from now on for your crew. I liked Jiro a lot last week, but Ichi be out here making plays, man. Ichiro be hella cool. And it's funny too, like he like puts his hood up, right? And I'm like, yes, that will distract the robber. He definitely won't recognize you with your hood up, even though you're wearing your trademark jacket. but whatever. Like, even like it's made, like you are made aware that like even the crowd is like, oh shit, that's Ichiro from Buster Bros. Like when you see it on the outside. So I guess the bank robber's just stupid. But Ichi even calls him an idiot a handful of times, so I guess he really is just stupid. And it doesn't matter, because you actually get this sweet moment where basically everybody that is aware that Ichiro is in this position is also aware that he's probably going to figure out a way to get himself out. The only two who are not aware of that are Saburo and Jiro, who are just, you know, concerned about him and want to help him out, even though they probably know that he could have gotten out of there on his own, maybe. And it's really sweet, like, seeing the civilians, like, when the kid gets scared and Ichi, like, takes the hood off and he's like, hey, I got this, don't worry about it. And they're like, oh my god, it's Ichiro, dude, it's Ichiro Yamada, like, from Buster Bros, oh, we're safe. And I was like, oh, that's nice, right? Like, there's a lot of moments in this episode that I'm like, that's nice. And then there's our gang from I'm positive I'm gonna mispronounce this name, Matenro, which is Doc Jakurai's group. And Jakurai I know because of his connection to Fling Posse. Like, Jakurai I know because the character that I looked up the most background info on was Ramda, because Ramda's my boy, and I can't wait for a Ramada-focused episode. Just know when there's a Ramada-focused episode, I'm going to be watching it like, yay. But when that time comes, it is not currently. Like I don't know when that time's coming. I don't know when we're getting a Fling Posse episode. But know that when it happens, I will be excited. But for now, we see Jakurai get called by the other members of Matenro. The other members of Matenro. They call him up because they're like, oh my god, Ichi's in like a hostage situation. And Jakurai's like, yeah, that's definitely scary for sure, but I know him and he will figure his way out of it. Thanks for calling me. Thanks for letting me know. I promise he's going to be just fine. And it's like, wow, that's really like Jakurai having the faith to be like, nah, trust me, it's fine. I'm glad you two called me because I would have liked to have known, but he's fine. And I was like, whoa, the faith, like the level of trust in his former boy. I like that. And again, it makes sense because they were both in Dirty Dog together. So yeah, that's really cool. I dig that a lot. And it's also nice to see Saburo and Jiro like stop bickering long enough to actually, help Ichi get the win. Like Jiro, like a running motif through the episode is that Jiro is kind of dumb by comparison to the other two, but he's energetic and he's really driven and he's like confident in himself. And the instant that they see the soccer ball, he's like, I know exactly what we're going to do. And they set that up earlier, too. They set that up in the beginning of the episode where Jiro is like, he's not aware exactly how, like, certain kicks in soccer or football work. But he knows, like, if he can get this specific, like, corkscrew kick, he can kick the football, like, through, spin it around, and then hit somebody upside the head, right? And Saburo is using his brains, right? Because we established Saburo is, like, the smart one. And he's able to, like, use his phone to connect to his computer at home to, like, hack into the city. And at first I was like, that's crazy that he can do that. But then I remembered that, like, the bust it's hypmic, and I'll kind of accept any technological explanation for most things, but also like it's their city, you know what I mean? Like Ikebukuro is like their district, so like I said city, I meant district. Ikebukuro is their district, so like it makes sense that like he would that Saburo would specifically have the ability to like tap into certain areas in Ikebukuro, and yeah, it was cool to see the duo work together. But I think the most surprising thing for me is I was not expecting the robber to start like throwing out rhymes. Like I was not expecting this man to start dropping bars, to drop straight fire on top of our boy. He doesn't actually drop fire, but like he does attempt to drop bars. And it's interesting too because like the robber uses, again, as I said, multiple mics which are strapped to the waist, basically meant to amplify the man's power. But Ichiro basically tells him, like, you really shouldn't be doing that. Like, give me those mics, hand yourself over, you really shouldn't be using those. And we do establish that, like, from last week's premiere, that, like, there are people using illegal hip mics, and people who maybe shouldn't have them. And the hip mics can be dangerous to an extent, right? And last week they tried to go into it a bit, but they didn't really go into it as well as I feel like they did here. And we specifically see like how the mics sort of like amplify his rap, right? Like by rapping through the mic, he is sort of like overpowering Ichi's mind, because it's sort of how like the hip mics work. But he basically like tries to rap at Ichi. It knocks Ichi back, and we see that because of that amplification, it's also hurting him. Like he gets hit by, I guess, some feedback. Not so much feedback, but like using the hip mic takes a toll on you, and so when it's like that many, it really affects him. His knees weak, arms are heavy, vomit on a sweater already, mom spaghetti. You know I had to do it, I'm sorry. Interestingly enough, Ichi specifically says rapping with those mics will drain you psychologically. You'll effing die, is what he says. Again, the show has a lot of swearing in it, and I kind of dig that. But yeah, he straight up says, like, you'll effing die. Like, it'll drain you psychologically. And I should give some credit here, because last week I was actually made aware of that, because the show tried to explain it. I don't think they did the best job last week, but this week they actually managed to explain it pretty well. But I do still want to give credit to a user by the name of Simply Nicole, who mentioned last week that essentially like the hip mics kind of like by rapping the hypmics sort of send out like a sound that sort of affects the nervous system, which essentially alters your state of mind. Basically, and this isn't what Nicole said, but this is me sort of paraphrasing. But basically, going by Matrix logic, your mind makes it real. So when you hear things from the hypmic, whatever they're rapping at you is what they want you to sort of like feel, right? Like by rapping, they're sort of bringing their imagination and their rhymes to life and using it to attack your mind. It's not so much that they're physically attacking you. It's that your mind is seeing what they want you to see, or maybe just what you feel when you hear their rhymes. That part I'm not super sure. I think it's more that they are rapping and you're seeing what they want you to see, and they are mostly attacking your mind, and it can actually cause damage, according to our friend Simply Nicole. And then again later this week, Ichi says the same, that you'll actually die, and it could cause like some serious brain damage. So I think the fact that they're actually like explaining how the hypmics work this week is really cool. And again, I do have to emphasize that I think, and I don't know for certain, but I think that it's the way it works is that you are seeing what they are saying. You know what I mean? Like, you are seeing what they want you to see. Like, the robber specifically conjures these like huge speakers that sort of like blast at Ichi, and again kind of gave me like Yu-Gi-Oh vibes where they like take the damage physically, but again it's more so that it's happening mentally. But then later you see like Ichi summons a street cleaner, and Jiro straight up summons Cerberus at one point. Like, Cerberus, like the Hellhound. I was like, that's so dope. And that was Jiro basically being like, I'm still your fave, right? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I mean, like, Ichi my fave now, but you like my second fave. So, bro, you're cool too. But like, I like all the Buster Bros. They're all cool. But Ichi, like, Jiro, I appreciate you. I especially love the fact that you straight up use Cerberus. But I mean, like, it's Ichi. Even you like Ichi. You know what I mean? Like, everybody likes Ichi. But like, yeah, Jiro summoning Cerberus feels like it's something that he wanted the robber to see. So that's why, and the robber sees it. Like, the robber sees Cerberus, and I'm pretty sure like Jiro even mentions like dogs in the rhyme. So I feel like he wants you to see that. So I do feel like it's they're saying what you're seeing what they are saying. Like, you are seeing what they want you to see. Yeah. The hypmic technology is interesting, is what I'm trying to say. But there's actually no design time this week either, because I already went into design time for Buster Bros last week. I feel like my design analysis on Jiro's a bit off, but hopefully next time I'm a little bit closer to being right. Whenever we see another crew, like the next time we get a different, like the instant we see another crew take the spotlight in an episode, I'll do the design time on them. But for now, I'm actually probably going to wrap up the video. I think we've talked enough. So with that said, everybody, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, and of course, hit that dang sub button and ring that bell. Let AniTube know you're here. Ring that bell, get to make sure that you actually get these videos in your sub feed. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names, and hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. For just a single $1, you can get your name at the end of the screen, or you can hit that join button right beside the sub button for just a wee bit more, and you get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments and premiere chats, as well as your name at the end of these videos. So if either one of those options sounds cool to you, go ahead and either hit that first link in the description, check out the Patreon page, or hit that join button right beside the sub button. That would be super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the T Squadron, and that's basically it for me. I gotta go work on my rhymes, my flow, I'm gonna stop right now. I'm gonna stop that right now. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.